So, yeah, I'll just choose 2 people. If no one is volunteering and participating or sharing, maybe I will, maybe Lonnie, you can share.
Sharing. Sharing what?
Take the qualities of a leader you admire.
Oh.
If not, I'll just share my own. I'm just thinking, I see we have a few people with us, so I'm just.
I hope people will be comfortable doing that. That's my piece. And so I'm going to give an example of a person that I admire so that while they're thinking a little bit, they can come up with somebody that they should be, I hope, interested in doing that. But thank you, Angelica. If you see no hands, then we'll find out who you admire.
Okay.
I already admire you for being our backup.
As if I needed more reasons to love Jeana Preston.
58.
Okay, I'm going to start sharing.
Thank you, Mayela.
Are we letting people in now?
I was going to ask, should we go ahead and start?
Yeah, I thought that there were more people waiting in the lobby.
I know.
It's 5:55.
Yeah, start letting people in. I wonder if people were trying to get in and then they couldn't.
No, there's only been 2 people. I've been watching.
Okay.
Is that for the link, Patty?
Yeah, which one?
The translation
What do you mean?
or the PowerPoint?
The PowerPoint. Oh, my
Okay.
text message
Yeah.
was on regarding the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Oh, somebody started recording.
Oh.
Okay, I'm going to admit everyone.
Sounds good.
Ms. Pimentel, Jorge von Borstel, IT, he was the one who started the recording.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayela.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to give everyone a little bit of time to join us, but thank you to those of you who have joined us early and on time. Thank you so much. We'll be starting shortly. If you know of a friend that isn't quite here yet, feel free to send them a text message and let them know that they can find the link in their email or on the district website. And we're going to give people a little bit of time to jump on. But thank you for being here tonight for Module 2. And as you come on, we do ask that you mute your microphone. And so you can go ahead and do that if you're jumping on with us tonight. While we are waiting for more parents to join us, please take this brief survey that you see on the screen right now. You can use your phone to scan the QR code. If you are not able to do that, the link to the survey is in the chat box. So if you're on your phone, you can actually click that, take the survey, and join the meeting again. Okay, so thank you for doing that. For those of you who are on tonight, if you can just kindly type your name and your school in the chat box, we'd like to acknowledge our representatives that are here. So you can type your name and your school in the chat box. You can also state if you're a DAC DLAC rep or if you're representing school site council or ELAC at your school, you can share that with us as well. Thank you. All right, welcome Stephanie from Valley Vista and Monica from Loma Verde. And welcome Arlene from Chula Vista Hills, Mr. Baker, our DAC chairperson from Tiffany. And if our interpreters who are managing the Spanish channel, if you have parents that are joining you on the Spanish channel, if you could kindly type their names in to our chat as well.
Yes, Lani, we will as soon as someone joins.
Thank you, Mayela. Okay, it is 6:05, so we're going to get started. We're a little bit of a small group tonight, but we hope that more and more people will join as the night goes on. If you have a friend that is a representative at another school site, feel free to text them and let them know it's not too late. Have them jump on, and we'd be happy to have them. So please, if you have not taken this quick survey, go ahead and do that now. The link is also in the chat box. You are joining us tonight for our Chula Vista Elementary School District Parent Leadership Series Module 2. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight. All right, we're going to get started just by typing in, how are you feeling today? So if you take a look at these pictures of these, I believe they're sheep. How are you feeling today? Are you a 1, a 2, a 4? Maybe you're a 9. Go ahead and type that in the chat box right now. Let's see how everyone's feeling. We know fall break is just right around the corner. All right. We've got a variety. Okay, we've got 9. Whippy. All right. Awesome. Thank you for having fun with us tonight. And whatever mood you're in tonight, you know, do your best. I know that some of you are, you know, you may be at home managing, you know, the family and dinner, but we appreciate that you're here and we hope that you get a lot out of our session tonight. Okay. Like I said, welcome to Module 2, our Parent Leadership Series. My name is Lelaine Perez, and I'm the Executive Director of Language Development and Instructional Support Services here at the Chula Vista Elementary School District. And we're excited to share with you Module 2, Getting It Done, How to Have Effective, Efficient Meetings. So whether you are a parent leader in DAC, DLAC, School Site Council, PTA, or ELAC at your school site, you're going to walk away tonight with some great tools. We have some wonderful presenters that are going to be here with us tonight, and I'm going to introduce them in a minute. But what I'd like for you to do is there's a packet, a virtual packet of great resources, and you can find that on the link that's in the chat box. And so Ms. Pimentel is with us here tonight, and I know you're very familiar with her. She has posted the link to the English and the Spanish links. You do not need to download these right now because the presentation tonight will have all of the visuals that you need. But these are resources that you can pass out to the other parents at your school during a school site council meeting or during a PTA meeting, or even during an ELAC meeting. So they're there for you, and they're on our district webpage. So as I said, Ms. Pimentel is here with us tonight. Ms. Angelica Maldonado, our parent engagement liaison, is with us tonight. And I'm very, very happy to introduce Frances Miller. Frances Miller is the principal analyst for the Western Educational Equity Assistance Center. And we are excited to have a partnership with this organization called WEAC. And I'm going to introduce Frances right now, and then she will be introducing her colleagues who will be presenting our workshop tonight. Frances?
Okay, thank you. Can we bring up that slide for the Equity Center? Thank you. Great. Okay. Please take a look at this slide. This slide represents the Western Educational Equity Assistance Center, WEAC. And as you see, we cover all the Western states and also the American territories in the Pacific. We're located out of University in Denver, and we're authorized under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Now, our areas that we cover are in particular to race, national origin, gender, religion, and other aspects of K-12 education. We're very proud to be the sponsors of tonight's workshop and for the next two that are upcoming. In saying that, we'd like to let you know that our training is at no cost to the school district, and what your school district did in terms of getting our services is to just make a request. So for this Parent Leadership Series, we welcome the opportunity to do this, and we're going to continue to do this with the next two sessions coming up. These speakers who are our WEAC consultants are local to your area. They are Jeana Preston and B. Fernandez. So I'm going to now turn the meeting over to B and to Jeana to further explain tonight's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jeana. I'm really happy to meet you, even if it's on the screen. Maybe at some point, at some time, we can all be together in person, but until then, we are doing our very best job with this media. I want to talk about the agenda, but before we go into that, I want to say thank you, as Lonnie did, to everybody who's giving their time tonight. And I want to also assure you that we are going to respect your time. I am the grandmother of two 5-year-olds. They're twins, by the way. And I know that 8 o'clock is bedtime. So that may be true at your house. So it is our goal to get everything done before 8 o'clock, because we want to respect that bedtime. And I know too from my grandchildren, sometimes what we think or their parents think are behavior problems, it's just because they're so tired. So no one needs overtired children, right? So we will get on with our presentation this evening. If you look at the agenda, I would like to start, before we go through it, by asking you to do something with me. And what I'd like to ask you to do is think about two things just in your own head. We're not going to share out, but two things that you're grateful for today. I've had an interesting summer. I broke my arm and elbow, dog walking accident. And I noticed after that happened to me that I was really kind of focused on things that weren't going well, obviously, for me, or things that I couldn't do, like tie my shoes. So I've had to kind of force myself into a space that allowed me to concentrate instead about what I'm grateful for. So I'm going to be quiet for just a few seconds and let you think about two things that you're grateful for today. Okay, when you look at the agenda, it just kind of has different segments that are going to unfold kind of naturally as we talk. And you'll see that we're going to talk a little bit about the importance and value of what you're doing as a leader at your school site and at district level. And we're going to talk about what that looks like when you're leading. So types of groups, what is your role or responsibility on those groups? tools for efficient meetings. And as was mentioned, there is a packet for you, so you don't, when you see lists of things, please know that those are available to you if you want them. And then, because we know you're not only leaders at your schools and at your district level, but you're also educational leaders for your own family. So in every one of the presentations, we will be providing 3 resources for you. They're in the packet. And these are things that we hope will be of interest to you to maybe share with the other parents, families at your school, or to just use for yourself, whatever you decide to do. So let's look at the next slide, please. And I don't know, there we go, good. This is a cartoon I love to use because you can bet if you're seeing certain behaviors at home, we're seeing them at school. So it just, for me, kind of is a picture about why we need to have good levels of communication and cooperation, because we share our children. They spend part of their time with you and part of their time at school. So communication is key to supporting our children. Next. And here's something I like to talk about just for a minute, the heart of the matter. If you attended the very first module, you got a lot of information about what it means to be a DLAC member or a DAC member, and even school site council and ELAC. So you've got a lot of info about what this is that you signed on for. But I wanted to talk for a minute about why and why it's so important. And if you look at this list, you'll see some of the benefits. When parents are involved, quality of school programs is better. Teachers and administrators feel better about themselves and about their schools. Their morale levels are better. And communities have a much more favorable view about schools that have engaged families. Next. Thank you. There's also just in general, this is something that I like actually to share with people. We're not going to go through it point by point, but I just want to assure you that when you're engaged with your child's education, there's certain benefits for your child too. Typically, children of engaged families have higher grades, better test scores, their attendance is better, they feel better about themselves, and they adapt well to the school environment. Next. And tonight, we're going to focus on a particular kind of engagement or parent involvement. And people who study this area have looked at it and kind of divided it into areas, because there are lots of different types of parent involvement. And as you look at that list, you'll see what they are. The one we're going to talk about tonight is type 5, decision making and advocacy. Next. And Patty, are you doing the slides?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we can go to the next one, please. To 9.
We are there.
There we go. And when I mentioned that we're talking about decision making and advocacy, you might have been wondering, well, what's included in that? And it is parents serving on different councils, committees, and advocating for their own children, being part of PTA, really the decision-making capacity and cooperation and communication between parents, families, and the school district. And there are just some things listed there for you about what this means specifically. And next. So we're going to 10.
We're on 10 now, Jeana.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you know, on my screen, I'm still on 9. Okay, well, don't know why that is, but anyway. Okay, well, when we look at 10, it's a quote about leadership. And I wanted to just mention that some of you may not be thinking about yourselves in terms of being leaders. You've volunteered for something, you know, at your school site and now at district level. But you really are leaders. And an example of this that I wanted to share, there we go, it's up on my screen, about being a leader, a parent leader, is this. Years ago, when I was directing family engagement for San Diego Unified School District, I worked a lot with a particular parent leader. And one afternoon, she was in my office, and we were talking about this committee at district level. And then she said that she was really concerned because she wanted to apply for a job. She had not worked, well, she'd been working a lot, right, at school level and district level, but not in a job that she was being paid for. And she'd been in a community college and had her 3rd child. And now she really was ready to have a job. And she was really concerned because she felt she couldn't compete with other people applying because she hadn't had paid work in like almost 2 years. So I said, you know what, you really do need to apply for that job because I want you to think about everything you've been doing at your school site, the fundraising you did with PTA, the organizing of different events that you did. I can't remember that she was a DAC member or DAC member, but she had served on a committee at district level that actually did a report to the superintendent, and she had had a part in making that report. And it was so interesting because, you know, she had learned all these skills about organizing and taking a lead on committees, and she had a lot of initiative, but she didn't think that counted as experience. So I encouraged her and she applied for the job. It was with a community organization, a nonprofit, and she got the job. So I want you to think about the fact that you are actually gaining a lot of experience that maybe you wouldn't have in your regular work life, that will come to you by being part of this effort, both at your school level and district level, certainly. And you will, at the end of these sessions, each one of them, you're going to earn a certificate. And the certificate is something you should keep, because the woman I was talking about had been to a leadership class that I had done for the district, and she had a certificate, and I had to remind her that she had actually earned that certificate. And you never know when that kind of experience is going to be of service to you in something else you're doing. So the certificates are being mailed out to you, and you should receive one for each of the modules or sessions that you complete. So next. And I'm guessing that it's up on the screen, even though it isn't on mine. Yay, there we go. I want you to look over on the right. where it says true leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. That is such a good quote. It's one of my favorites, because leaders who insist on doing everything themselves because they're worried whether, somebody else is going to be able to complete a task, so they wind up pretty much doing everything, they're not usually that successful. We need to work as a team with people, whether you're working at your school site level or at district level on committees. And there's sometimes subcommittees that come out of DLAC and DAC. And you have to be able to bring people along with you. I want you to look at the three things in the box, the beliefs in leadership. And the first one is about leaders aren't born. They rise out of your particular passion of how you would like something to be in the way, instead of how it is, right? So leaders see possibilities, not problems, when they work. And the second one is leadership isn't a gift. It's really accessible to anybody who wants to do it. And if you care deeply about something, you may be just the right person to lead that effort. And the third one is, it's a matter of listening. And leadership is often about trying to solve a problem and listening to people about the problem and trying to come up with solutions. So next. What I'd like you to do right now is think about somebody that you think of as being a leader and why maybe you think of that person as a leader. And it could be somebody you know, like somebody in your family. It might be your mom, right? But someone who is a leader, who takes initiative that you see in that light. And it might be someone like your kid's soccer coach, or it could be someone you don't know, someone at national level even. And just me, just on a personal basis, a person I really admire is Kamala Harris, who is the first female vice president of our country. And I admire her for a lot of reasons. I have never met her, but I love that she's doing that job and doing it well. And I think that's based on a lot of skills on her part, and I do admire that. So take a moment, and I'll be quiet for a few seconds while you think of a person that you see as a leader and some reasons you admire them. And we can go to the next slide. And Angelica, you're going to help us with debriefing this, because we're going to ask a few people.
Yes, we'd love to have someone share the qualities that you admire in a leader. Miss Jeana, I'm sorry, I hope I did not interrupt you.
No, that's exactly right. So you're going to raise your hand, and Angelica is going to either call on you or read what you've written.
Yeah, so feel free to please add to the chat or raise your hand and share those 2 qualities that you admire in a leader. It can be absolutely anyone. In any way that you're comfortable. We'd love to hear what really speaks to you, what you see in someone else that you say, wow, they really inspire me, I really respect, and almost want to emulate sometimes. That's what I find that I do. When people around me, or I observe other folks on maybe a higher level or a higher platform, I observe, and I really like to try and emulate that. Oh, we have a comment from Miss Arlene Caballero. Miss
Yeah.
Arlene Caballero, I hope that's you and maybe not your child. I know some of us use our children's devices when we don't have a moment. What Miss Caballero shared is that she really admires motivation and drive. Absolutely. Someone who's really motivated and driven, and you actually want to work with them. You want to, it inspires you and want to contribute to their efforts. Those are great qualities. Does anyone else want to share via, again, if you'd like to raise your hand or if you'd like to add to the chat? Oh, we had Miss Stephanie Divins. She shared, in my opinion, a great leader is someone who is willing to encourage and grow their team while giving them the credit, at the same time willing to stand in the gap to take blame for their team's errors while using that as a teaching opportunity. Wow, I agree. Thank you so much, Ms. Divins, for sharing that with us. And Ms. Perez shared initiative and approachability. Absolutely. Someone who absolutely takes initiative, doesn't wait for red tape, but cuts through red tape and takes charge and puts action into motion. And definitely someone that you can approach and is a human being at the same time, right? Ms. Gonzalez, the parent leader from Vista Square, says that Dr. Escobedo was in his humbleness and the way that he listens to the parent voice. So absolutely humble and really still takes the moment to listen. Absolutely. Miss Pedrosa shares empathy and vision, and Miss Monica shares a leader that creates a safe environment and encourages others to grow. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. I'll pass this back to Miss Preston.
Great. We can go to the next slide. And what you have is a list. You know, the things you shared out, all of you, were just so on the spot, just really perfect for looking at this. So what you have is a list there of some of the things you'll recognize that some of you mentioned. And if we go to the next slide, it's the same list, but it gives us a little more information. And I think when you look at slide 15, that you will see some of these things in a little more detail. And one of the things, the first one mentioned, is integrity. It is so important that a person who's a leader be honest with everyone. Even if things aren't going well, or you're not moving at the speed you like, it's just, you have to be honest, because if you're not, people don't trust you after a while. They figure it out. And the second one that somebody mentioned was dedication. They talked about it in a little bit different way, but what that means is really putting effort into something. Sometimes people volunteer to lead or to be a representative at district level. They just don't really have the time or energy to put into it. And there's follow-up, there's all kinds of communication you need to do. And when you don't have the time, then it doesn't go well, because people around you, again, recognize you're not putting yourself into it and giving the time. And the third one, someone mentioned, the humility, you know, giving credit to everybody on the team, because it really, it's always the case that there will be some people who will be natural leaders in an effort or on a team, and there are people who kind of will do some work, and then there's maybe somebody who drags their feet a little bit, but honestly, it takes all of us. So when a leader gives credit to everybody, that's just really a good thing, and it inspires people too to remain on a team and be part of it. The openness, being willing to listen to criticism. You know, not everybody's going to love everything you say as a leader, and you may think going into a meeting, oh, you have the best idea and you've thought about this, but other people have different ideas and they're thinking about things in different ways. And so true leaders are able to hear other people's ideas and their contributions and recognize them and bring them along as emerging leaders. And number 5 is respect. Leaders want to be respected, and in turn, they respect everybody who's sitting on a committee or is part of an effort. That's just absolutely essential. And the last is assertiveness. And people, assertiveness, you know, that might not be the word that you would use to describe this, but what it means, frankly, is somebody in a group or doing a task at a meeting has to say, hey, this is what has to be done. We need to talk about the steps or how to do it, but this is our timeline, and we have to be accountable for figuring it out and getting everything, you know, turned in or reported back in time. Because if not, the group just sort of doesn't stick together and work doesn't get done, which is really, really important. And so you need, sometimes there's more than one leader on a group, certainly. They're performing slightly different tasks, but that is really, really important. And I think too, something I'll end with, and then we're going to talk about what does this look like when you're doing it, and B is going to take it, is that I think sometimes on the assertiveness piece that women get labeled as being bossy or pushy when they're being assertive. And so we need to recognize, I always used to say, I'm just the right amount of bossy. I am bossy, but it's also, we need to redefine that and recognize that people have leadership skills and they're assertive when they're working. So B Fernandez, my colleague, is going to talk to us about the types of groups and what it looks like when we're doing this work. So B.
I think you're on mute, B.
Oh. Are you with us, B?
There you go. Sorry about that. Thanks, Jeana, and thank you, Anika. Anyway, again, I'm really happy to be here tonight. I do have 30 years plus of experience working with parents at the district level in every area you can think of, but my favorite area was always governance. Teaching parents, teachers, and principals how to conduct meetings, whether it was a regular governance team, a DAC, an ELAC, I mean, you name it. That's the area that I really like. And so Jeana did a really good job about talking about the qualities that one, you know, assumes when you become a leader. So let's talk about what it looks like in real life. And so let's start with the types of groups. You know, if you think about the different groups at your school, you'll see there's a lot of different groups where parents are asked to be part of. And also the district level, and sometimes at the community level as well. So there are different types of groups at your school. So I want you to think about, just for a second, if you were back at your school site, what different groups are at your site? Okay, next slide. So we see two types of groups. You see advisory and decision-making groups. Now, decision-making are your SSCs, your PTAs, your PTOs. Those groups are charged with looking at an agenda item, discussing it, and then making a decision by voting. Okay? And then we have the other type of group, your advisory group, your DLAC, your DAC, your PAC, I mean, so many groups. And I want you to look at the word advisory, because when you advise someone, you offer them an opinion on how to handle a situation. So I want you to think of your best friend. Might be a friend you've known since elementary school, college, work, your neighbors. Many times you ask them for advice, right? Do you take their advice every time? No. It depends on the type of advice that they gave you. And that's the same thing when you are on an advisory group, whether at your school or at district level. You are there to give recommendations, to give input, to give opinions, and to advise them depending on what agenda item you're talking about. And sometimes the district takes your recommendations and implements them, and sometimes they don't. And when they don't, there are some parent leaders that might walk away very unhappy, thinking, my gosh, that was like the best recommendation we ever made, and it wasn't used. Why? Then there's some people that get very angry and start, making accusations. They never listen to us. We're just a rubber stamp, et cetera, et cetera. So I want you to think about this the next time that you give advice. In fact, you may want to get a little piece of paper and jot this down. The next time this happens, make sure that at the next opportunity that you ask that district representative, that you ask them, can you help me understand? And then talk about the recommendation. Can you help me understand why our recommendation was not used after all? That way you can get an explanation. Perhaps it was a fantastic idea, but when they looked at it further, they realized that it was not part of the state education code. It wasn't part of the federal state regulations. It may not have been part of a district policy. And so, but maybe at the time we didn't know that. But you do deserve to have an answer. And I got that a lot because I really spent a lot of time volunteering for PTAs in my district. I helped form a lot of PTAs. And I always come back and they say, well, we asked the principal, can we have this event? And she said, no. So that I would always say, well, did you ask the principal why? Well, no. Well, I think you should. You do deserve some kind of an explanation. So again, remember those special words. Can you help me understand? Okay. It works also when you get bad customer service at Macy's, okay, or at Aldi's or somewhere else. It does help that when you're talking to someone, if you have to ask them, can you help me understand why? So again, there's two types of groups that are important: advisory and decision making. They overlap in the topics that they are charged to handle, but very different. One votes and one gives advice. And now Angelica is going to talk about the different groups that you see in the district. Angelica?
Yes, thank you so much, Bea. And I love the example that you're giving. It's such a constructive way to communicate, to inquire, to get more information using that type of language. Because it's very easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Once you do become involved, you become more informed, you tend to become a little bit more impassioned and have a stronger stance or opinion on things. And it's really important to understand that at the end of the day, every decision that we are working towards or contributing to is for the benefit of the students, our children in our district. If we can really take our egos out of leadership and make sure that we're working collectively and contributing to that problem solving and advocacy. So thank you so much, Bea. I'm Angelica Maldonado, for those of you who I have not met in person or you have not joined us on these virtual platforms. I'm your parent engagement liaison here at the Chula Vista Elementary School District. And I'm here to just give a very quick overview on the existing platforms for all the advocacy that we're speaking of today. So we appreciate your contribution to the current DAC DLAC roles or SSC and ELAC roles, but specifically I wanted to share with you the snapshot, the overview in our community in its entirety. So if you can look at the quick PowerPoint here, if you look at the very bottom, those are our existing platforms that exist at the school site. And the tier above that are all the existing platforms at the district level. We all know that there are many other organizations that contribute to helping our school district and our community thrive. but we really want to give you a snapshot so that you, as you're in the community and you invite other parents, other friends, other neighbors to attend meetings, that you really show that there is quite an array. There are many different options, and that you don't have to only show up to one. You're welcome to come to more than one. Just to clarify, all of these platforms are public meetings. So we welcome you to check them out, to visit them. But specifically, we want you to understand the focus of each and one of these platforms. So today I won't be getting into that, but you're always welcome to email me if you want more information. But I just wanted to share with you what exists currently at our district and our community. So thank you very much. I'm going to pass this right back to Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you, Angelica. I think that I counted the groups. Those were 11 teams. And the reason we want to always be identifying parents, leaders, is that we want to make sure that it's not the parents volunteering for the same committees. We want to make sure we bring on new parents at every level that we can. And remember, one of the best parents to start recruiting are going to be your kindergarten parents, especially the ones whose it's the first time that they have a child in the school district. And those are the parents that you really want to identify, because that way they can stay with you for 5 years or 6 years. And one of the best ways, I swear, one of the best ways that helps is if you go up to the parent and you say, would you be interested in being on our ELAC or our SSC? I think you'd be a really great parent. Parents are waiting to be asked to help. Not every parent is assertive that's going to walk up and say, I want to be on that SSC team. I want to be in that ELAC team. Okay? It doesn't work that way. But when you walk up and do the one-on-one recruitment, I got to tell you, the majority of the time, it works. So now let's move to the roles and responsibilities. Within those 11 groups, there are, they all function differently. They all are charged with different kinds of responsibilities. So therefore, the same thing with you. It's going to depend on whether you're going to be a decision-making parent leader, whether you're going to be giving advice. So everything changes depending on the group. And so can you go to the next slide, please? So this page, I wanted to point out to you, is on page 9 on your virtual packet. But because there's so much wording on it, I divided into 2 sections. So can we go on to the next slide, please? So here are 4 simple ways to be involved as a team member: to inform, to ask, to communicate, and to participate. It's really important that whatever information you learn at these meetings, that you go back and you share it with the people you represent at your school site. Very important, because you are representing everyone. You are going to be their voice. So you have a very important responsibility. And part of the responsibility is to come to these meetings to ask questions, to get more information. And so remember these 4 areas: inform, ask, communicate, and participate. Next slide, please. Excuse me. When we teach reading to children, and I was a 2nd and 3rd grade teacher. I did teach 4, 5, and 6, but I love 2nd and 3rd grade. One of the things we learn in teaching reading to children is that it's important to ask important questions, because that's the way children improve their language and improve their skills in reading. In the same way, it's about you asking the questions in your teams. As you can see, we have 11 questions here that will really help you. Experienced leaders, you've probably already asked some of these questions in your teams. And for those parents that are new to teams, I'm hoping that these 11 questions will help you feel confident to raise your hand and ask a question. So let's do a short activity, and then Hedvig is going to help us in a sec. So next slide, please. Okay. So this is the activity. Which question will you ask? So you notice that a new executive board member seems confused about the agenda issue being discussed. It could be their face, it could be body language, it could be, you can just tell that they maybe a little bit confused or something or other. So as a team member, what questions could you ask to clarify the situation? And would you please place the number in the chat box at this time? Just give you a couple of seconds to do that.
Awesome, Ms. Fernandez. We have Arlene Caballero, and she shared number 3. I don't understand. Can someone please clarify for me? And,
go ahead, Angelica. I'm sorry.
And we have Ms. Divins. Also, she shared, I've been doing most of the talking. Is there anyone else that could add something different? It's really important. I just want to address, these are great questions to ask. I guarantee you're not the only person in the room who has the question, number 1. And number 2, it is so powerful to be inclusive and to give others the opportunity to contribute. Just because you can do, as you become a veteran parent leader, a lot of these roles doesn't mean you should. We really want to make sure we have a culture of inclusivity and really allowing other parents who may be a little bit more timid to have the opportunity to grow into those leadership roles. So it's an important balance, and it's hard to do sometimes. And I have here, Mr. Hemingway also contributed. He really liked question number 4. They're really great questions. They're nice probing questions. And Miss Monica, our guest, and please, if you haven't added to the chat what school site you're from and what role you have, please do. We really want to get to know you as parent leaders, as much as we can on these virtual platforms. Mr. Hemingway, again, asked, he liked number 4, and Miss Monica mentioned number 9 and 10. She really liked, can we hear some more from other parents on this issue, because we do tend to have our stronger or more vocal parents. It's very easy for them to overtake meetings, and we really want to make sure we leave time, space, and invite and be inclusive to the parents that are joining us, especially for the first time. You really want to create a culture of everyone having an opportunity to contribute. So thank you so much. Thank you for participating, everyone. I'll pass this back to Ms. Fernandez.
Thank you, Angelica. Go back to the slide again, please, Patty, if you don't mind going back to the slide. Okay, so I really love the questions that you put on the chat box. And Angelica, you mentioned something very important, and I'm glad you mentioned it, not me. But I have experienced this a lot. And you said there are some people on teams that speak loudly, and they just kind of maybe take over the conversation. And so I'm here to tell you that in effective teams, every person on the team can help monitor a situation. It doesn't always have to fall into the chair to say, oh, okay, we've heard only from parents. Can we hear teachers now? It can be in effective teams. Everyone assumes that role of monitoring how the team works. So I challenge you at your next meeting for you to use these questions to say something such, excuse me, we've really heard mostly one side of the issue. What is the other side? Or I see maybe some other parents have something else to say. A nice, polite way of telling that person that seems to be monopolizing the conversation that it's time to hear from other parents, okay? Those are skills that any one of you can use. It's not, again, it's about how you say it, because even if you are in a heated conversation, and this may happen in groups, instead of saying, can we hear from someone on the other side now? Well, you're going to have to pull back a little bit and say, Madam Chair, can we hear from someone else on the other side? Again, that's what's going to get us to move forward. And inside, you can have your cool anger, okay? But on the outside, it's all about being a team. So there's some really good questions here. When I used to train new team members, I actually ran off these questions on, what's it called? Index paper, kind of hard. And I would stick it in the binder of our team members. That way, they could pull out those questions and choose one of those until they felt comfortable to do it on their own. So these are just little tips that will help you be more involved and participate and do it at a comfortable level, because the more you do something or say something, the more comfortable you get at doing that one task, okay? So now can we go on to, oh, well, hold on a second. Yes, here we go. Okay, so I want you to think of the best meeting you went to. It could have been a school meeting, a district meeting, a church meeting, a community meeting. Maybe it's your kid's soccer team meeting, and it was a really good meeting, okay? Look at these 10 items. Which of these items help make that meeting effective for you, okay? Just give you a second to read through all 10 of them. So we do have a responsibility when we serve on a team. And these are some areas here that are important. One of the things that's very important, and I want to thank Lonnie for starting the meeting early. For those of you that came early, she greeted everyone. She gave you a few of the little rules, you know, how we're going to handle the evening. She greeted people at 6. She acknowledged that we still were probably waiting for a few more parents to log on. But exactly at 6:05, she started tonight's meeting. And that's really good. Also, Jeana also talked about how we're going to have tonight's meeting, and we're going to end on or before 8 o'clock, again, to honor people's times. So one of the responsibilities you have as a member is to make sure that you arrive early and that you start on time, that you've read your agenda, you've read the minutes. All of these things help for that meeting that you attend to run more smoothly, okay? Especially reading the minutes of the previous meeting, because sometimes meetings have mistakes. Okay, not the DAC and not the DLAC, okay? But sometimes when you read minutes, there are mistakes, and this is the opportunity for them to be corrected at your meeting, okay? I also want to point out number 7 and number 8. I touched upon that in a few minutes ago about communicating in a professional manner, and also about debating the issue and not the person. Because what happens is, I've also heard people say, well, you know, it's not personal. But many times it is personal. So we have to pull back and go back and focus on the issue that we are discussing, which might be a heated issue, but we have to come back to that, debate the issue and not the person. And this Chula Vista district does a really good job about interpretation and having materials translated. So I want to thank you for that. Okay, the next slide, please. So let's look at some tools that are going to help you conduct efficient meetings. I think they will be useful for you, whether you serve on a team and in a leadership position, or whether you're a team member. These are 4 areas that we want to touch upon. So next slide, please. This is the DAC, DLAC agenda format. But every team meeting should have an agenda. Even if it's a committee meeting to plan the literacy night at your school, you always have to have an agenda, because an agenda adds structure to your meeting and keeps you focused. Okay, so in the DAC DLAC format, in number 1, they call the meeting to order, they do introductions, and then they usually do the agenda and the minutes. Other groups might do it a little bit later to allow the superintendent, the district administrator, and the chairperson to give the reports, and that gives people time to log on to the meeting, or if it's in person, to get to the meeting on time. You know where we live. If you work in San Diego, Mira Mesa, you're looking at 45-minute drive to Chula Vista at least. So having these reports early on, though they're wonderful reports, I'm sure, allows for people to log in, because when you go to number 4 in new business, that's when you have to have quorum to conduct the meeting, to make decisions. That's when you're going to perhaps read your minutes. And so again, I really like this format. This applies for the DAC DLAC. For your groups, it's going to look a little similar, but nonetheless, we need structure to help us have an effective meeting. Next slide. Minutes. This is something that when you say, can we have a volunteer that wants to be our secretary? Sometimes it's hard to identify that person because they're thinking, oh my God, I have to write all these minutes and this and that. Well, the secretary has a very important role, and it's not to write down every single comment that is made at a meeting. So-and-so said this, and then so-and-so said that. No. True minutes are brief. It's a summary of the points that were made. Most importantly, you want to record the decisions that were made, the recommendations, and the actions. Also, some teams use motions, some do not. So if you want to make sure you write down who made the motion and the exact language of the motion. Some groups, like the PTA that I have worked with for many years, they did not need to write down the person that seconded. It was assumed that if there was the motion and you moved to discussion and then to the decision, that it was assumed that there was a second. So that's something that groups do differently. Important, type those minutes right away and distribute them or give them back to whomever's supposed to receive them immediately for a variety of reasons. What was discussed is still fresh in your mind. Something happens and you have to miss a meeting. You have because you moved away or whatever. So you want those meetings typed and distributed immediately. It's also because, remember, those meetings have to be available for the following meeting. And if you wait a whole month until you try to recreate those minutes, you're going to miss some points. And again, still take your own notes. I've always been a note taker since high school. I don't know why I had to record everything my teacher said, but that's just my style, to record notes. So I know that in teams that I was on, even if I was just a member of a team and not an actual board member, that if we didn't have a secretary, that then they would ask me, could you recreate the minutes? So again, minutes are really important. And now I'm going to turn it over to Patty, or is that Angelica? They're going to show you where to find agenda minutes on the district website.
Yes, and Ms. Pimentel and myself are going to be able to give you a quick tour of how to use and how to reference, and we're going to use the example of our DAC DLAC format, like Ms. Fernandez was saying. So if you looked on how Ms. Pimentel went about, she went to our district website, she went under parent involvement, went under DAC DLAC, and if you scroll towards the middle of the page, you will have English and Spanish hyperlinks to all minutes, all agendas, and those are really great place to start if you're establishing the ELAC at your school site or your school site council. It really should mirror in some way, shape, or form this. And I love, and I will share a best practice of having those agendas where they actually have the time frame. When you're new at this, and sometimes you don't understand how much time it takes to just simply put together an agenda. A lot of ideas come to the table, and if you can put time frames, that's just a quick tip I want to add. I know we're specifying and reviewing minutes and what they look like, but with those agendas, really start using the the practice of using the time frame that you allot. You can later adjust, but just to get used to those officer meetings to stay within a certain amount of time and then to run the actual meeting to mirror those time frames. If you see here, obviously you're going to see an English and Spanish version. So it doesn't matter what committee you are on. It is understood that those two, the English and Spanish, needs to be provided to your families on your respective platforms. So a lot of times I'll have a Spanish speaking parent that says, oh, I would love to help, but I only, I feel more comfortable taking notes in Spanish. Great, perfect, awesome. Work with your site administrator, work with your officers. Maybe one person can take them in English, the other person can take them in Spanish. There are many ways to approach this, and there's space for everyone to help and everyone to contribute. So as you're fine-tuning your roles, as you're exercising your own role within your respective platform, please feel comfortable referring to or defaulting to the district's agendas and minutes. And you're always welcome to ask questions with your site administrator, your site secretary, your school secretary, and always reach out to language development or myself for any support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angelica. I really do like your website. I mean, obviously I had to study it for this presentation. I know exactly where to go, where it says parents, scroll down, it says DAC and DLAC. And I also like the fact that this meeting was on the first page of your website on the calendar, that all you have to do is click it. That is so wonderful. I really like the different ways that parents can access meetings. Okay, so follow up. After a meeting, you are here on the DAC and the DLAC as representatives for your school. So part of your responsibility, again, is to reflect on what was learned at the meeting, take some notes, and then connect with the principal or someone else on how you're going to share that information that you learned at your meeting. I always recommend that you have a set standing meeting with your principal after the DLAC, that it's on the calendar for the rest of the year, because principals get so busy. And you might, oh, I need to share with you what we learned at the DAC and the DLAC. And I know that your principals come to the DAC and the DLAC, but there will be some times when perhaps your principal had an emergency and couldn't make it. So you still want to have that standing committee to share information. Did you hear the same information? For example, as a parent rep, I might think that this agenda item was really important to parents, so I want to stress that to the principal. So again, I recommend that when possible to have a standing meeting. It doesn't have to be very long, 15 minutes max, but that way you find a time to meet with the principal. Don't forget to follow up, because I know we keep repeating it, but that's why you are there, is to come back and share information to your parents. And it also, as you come back to your site and you present at the parent meeting, or you add something to the school newsletter, it's, you're starting to build that trust with your group and that relationship, which is very important. And so remember these little letters here, D, W, Y, S, Y, W, D. Do what you say you will do. And someone mentioned that earlier in terms of the parent leadership qualities, and one of them was commitment and dedication. Very important skills that you offer when you decide to become a leader. Okay, next slide. Angelica talked about time management, and I agree with her. It's important to put a time frame for your agenda items that allows you to begin on time and to end on time. And there are sometimes when there's an agenda item that actually takes a lot longer. And that's when you have to decide, are we going to maybe not go through the full agenda because we need to focus on this one item? And that's okay. But is your agenda too full every time? If it's too full, then you need to look at how you are developing your agenda. Are we using the norms? That are we spending too much time discussing things that may not be as important? Do we need a timekeeper as well as adding time to our agenda items? Or should we park those ideas and that are not part of the agenda item, and should we park those in a parking lot and talk about later? Okay, next slide, please. Now, here are some different tools for effective meetings. If you'll see, we're going to tackle meeting norms on Module 3 and Robert's Rules of Order also on Module 3. So we're going to focus today on the two items, the parking lot and the brainstorm. Could you have the next slide, please? I mentioned parking lot in the last slide. This is a great idea that, believe me, it does work. You're going to need a chart of paper or somewhere to write down, and you also have to make sure that everyone on your team knows what the parking lot and why you're using it, because it's really to help monitor how we discuss items on the agenda. So you know that you're going to have people bring up an issue that's related to the agenda, but not the agenda item. Let me give you an example. So again, so you're discussing the agenda, whether or not to have a family literacy night. Okay, let's say you're back at your school site. And so what you want to do is make a decision, yes or no, and then form a committee who's going to go away and plan this family literacy night. But what always happens at these meetings, some people go into planning mode. It's just their MO. Oh yes, and I think we should invite this author that I know, and someone else says, well, I'm thinking we should have it at 6 o'clock. So we need to stop that in the gentlest way we can, because some of those things belong in a parking lot. So the chair might say, everyone, listen to me. I'm going to put in the parking lot a school committee for the family literacy night, and we can decide how we're going to do that at another time. Okay, or it might be or it might be something else that some people just go off in a tangent. Their brain just works a little bit differently. So we want to make sure we list these items in a chart, that we have someone that will be assigned at the end of the meeting to decide, was that an agenda item for the next meeting? Do we need to send this to another person or department for resolution? But your team members need to know that something will be done with those ideas that just were not appropriate for the agenda item. Okay, next slide. Am I getting some sound? I got a little bit of feedback and I'm not sure why, but anyway. Okay, and the next one is brainstorming. I don't know what's happening. Can you guys hear that? Can you guys hear that?
It happened very quickly, but just keep going. You're good.
Okay, good. All right. Anyway, so the last tool I want to share with you is what's brainstorming. And you will be asked many times as parents back at your school or even at district level to give input on a certain subject. How are we going to spend this $30,000 one-time grant that has to do with reading? So a quick way to get ideas is to do either a round table or to do a popcorn style of brainstorming. But the number one rule is that we're not going to discuss whether that idea is good or not. We're going to not to evaluate it, because sometimes some of the crazy ideas can be the best ones. So round table is just what it says. We go around the table and people can pass. If they don't want to have an idea, that's okay. And we go around until no one else is sharing ideas. And we have to be prepared. I like to have 2 different poster boards and 2 volunteers to be writing down the ideas quickly, okay? Popcorn style is when you say, all right, who's got a great idea? Just raise your hand and just say it. And again, people are writing down the ideas, okay? So this is a great tool for people to feel they're giving input and for you to get an idea of what's kind of important for certain individuals in the group. So again, those are some tools that I hope you will consider useful. I want to again acknowledge that some of you are fantastic leaders. You're new to the role, but I'm hoping that these tools will help you. Okay, and now I'm going to go over to Jeana.
Yep. And we're moving to the next slide, which is one of my favorite quotes to encourage you. This is a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. And basically it says you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. I think many of us always feel like we don't know enough to take on a new role, or we just don't have the experience, or there's a book we didn't read, or everybody else knows more than we do. But the truth is, and this is true not only about leadership, but a lot of things in your life, sometimes you just have to get your feet wet. You have to take that first step and then figure out what it is you don't know and seek that out. But you shouldn't be afraid. Another quote I like is, do something every day that scares you, because if you're not growing. So you don't have to know everything to get started. Just take that first step. And next slide, please. I mentioned earlier when we were just getting started that in the packet that is available to you, that we had put a lot of the information that you were seeing in lists and so on up on the screen. It's actually in the packet in English and Spanish. And that every time we do these modules, we will be adding some resource items. And they're just for you, because we know, as I said earlier, you're not just a leader at your school and at district level, but you're also the educational leader in your home for your children. So these are some things we hope will be useful to you. And the first one is a planning calendar. If we can go to the next handout, please. I just want to show it to you. This is something that if you have the access to a printer and you want to run one of these off for each month, I think it's helpful to kind of keep track of everything you're doing. Some of you are very active at your school sites in addition to being active at DLAC or DAC level. And it just, you see a place up there for your school name and then whatever month it is. And then you'll see the columns for meetings. Some of your meetings that you attend are special meetings. They're only happening once, or they're short series of meetings. Like Bea was talking about planning a literacy night, for example. You might be part of that, but those are special meetings and there may be only going to be 3 of them, but you might put them up there. Monthly meetings, do you have a meeting also set up, as she was mentioning, 10 or 15 minutes with your principal to go over things from district level, from your DAC or DLAC meetings? What about weekly? Are there things that you need to do weekly, people that you need to meet with or touch base with? So you would just list those there as a reminder to yourself. The middle one is activities, because sometimes there are special activities at district level that you may be attending. There may be, in San Diego Unified, we used to have, every year we had a big parent conference. So there may be things like that that are available to you and you want to put them on your calendar so you don't miss them. And the last column and the lines there are ideas for sharing information, because part of your responsibility is, how do you help other parents understand what's happening at district level? And what are some ideas for doing that? We used to, in the old days, everyone did a newsletter. Now, a lot of our information comes online. Do you have a way of contacting parents and giving them information and inviting them to be involved in certain events and things that are happening at district level? So just some ideas every month for how you do that. And let's look at the next resource page, please. The next one that'll be in your packet is about 4 things you can do to support literacy in your home. And we know at elementary level, it's absolutely crucial that kids have really good literacy skills. And whether your child is a kindergartner or a 6th grader, it doesn't matter. We need to really do these things at home. And so this is just a reminder of things, many of which I know you're already doing, but a good reminder. Number 1 is having books in your home. You know, one of the things that I always do with my grandchildren, and they've learned to love getting books as gifts, honestly. Do they like the cars and the toys? Yeah, they love that. But they have come to expect from me every occasion, holiday. I just ordered some Halloween books for them. But I give books as gifts, and it helps children build their home library. So they have a little stack of books that belong to them that you can read with them, which brings us to number 2. Reading with your child at least 20 minutes a day. I know how hard that is to do. I watch my daughter, who has a job and a half, and trying to keep the house and their lives organized and get kids in bed. I know this isn't easy, and you may not be able to do it every night, but it doesn't have to be at night either. Maybe you have some time before school or on a Saturday, and so you read a little longer. But if you do this, your child will have access to so many more words. And if your child is of the age that they're reading, have them read to you too. Excuse me, that's wonderful practice for them. And the conversation that goes with looking at even picture books with young children is just really, really valuable. The third thing is keeping track of your child's progress in school. You have parent-teacher conferences coming up soon. It's really important to remember, if you're not clear on at what level your child is reading, you need to know that no matter what grade they're in. At what level are they reading? And to know also at your school and at district level, are there programs that your child can be part of and that they can take advantage of to increase their literacy skills? And the last one is to be a good role model in terms of reading. Kids need to see you reading things, even if it's a magazine, it's a paperback, whatever it is, because the message you send them is that's an important activity, and it's so important that I'm doing it too. So those are just things that maybe help you focus on really supporting your children to do well in school. And the last one's my favorite, because getting ready every morning and trying to get to school is important. If your child, and I don't know if it's up on your screen, it's not on mine yet, but the self-directed morning checklist, this is something that you can post if you want to at your home, because you basically do the same things pretty much every morning to get ready and get out the door to school. And I know it's in the millions how many times you've said, did you brush your teeth? You know, did you brush your hair yet? It's the same things. I have a friend who on the first day of school for her kindergartner, her daughter got her socks on. They get to school, she had no shoes on. It was just really disappointing for her mom, but at least she had the socks, right? So if you go over these with your child, it doesn't matter whether they're kindergartners or they're 5th graders, they're going to be doing some very standard things in the morning. And if they're readers already, you can post this. And if they're kind of, you know, looking unfocused in the morning, you can say, go look at your list. Did you brush your teeth? Where's your backpack? And then there are the two final questions for them, which is, what are you taking to school today? And what are you forgetting? My grandchildren, for the first time, have folders that come home with them every day from school now. But then everybody has to keep track of those and make sure they get back in the backpack. And as kids get older, oftentimes it's not so much that they're not doing well in school, it's that they're not organized. They don't get their homework in their backpack. They don't get those things organized. So this is to help kids stay organized and to keep you from losing your mind in the morning as everybody's trying to get ready. So again, those are resources, 3 of them that you can just use, but I would encourage you to maybe share them with some of the parents at your school site in whatever way you do that. And let's see, I'm turning it back over to Angelica, I think, for our very last thing on here.
Hi, I think Patty's going to be sharing.
Oh,
Ms.
okay,
Pimentel.
Patty.
Thank you, Angelica and Janine. I'm not sure what happened on the slide. I'm going to exit real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay. So you have the QR code. Now that you have heard this great information on participating in meetings and conducting meetings yourself, use this QR code to rate your understanding and your learning of your roles and responsibility for your committee. I have also placed the link in the meeting chat if you would rather do that. I'm not sure why I'm getting an echo on that part. And then lastly, we would like you to please complete this short survey. I'm going to put that in the meeting chat right now. Having some technical difficulties. The bit.ly is on the bottom of the slide. And I'm not sure what happened here. Oh, I'm sorry. That just went through. There is the link to the exit survey. And I'm going to put the link to complete the Module 2 Certificate of Completion, and you will provide your name that you would like to appear on the certificate, along with the address where we can mail you your certificate. And then lastly, we would like to thank you for your participation. Thank you from the WEAC, Francis, Bia, Janine. Thank you so much. And on October 12th, we will have our Module 3. And as was mentioned earlier, that will be how to make Robert's Rules of Order work for you. And I will put those links to join those meetings in the meeting chat in just about 30 seconds. So thank you again for your participation. We appreciate your engagement and joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Parents are here so active just somewhere in here later. Good night.
I think Ms. Gonzalez was bringing up a picture. If anyone wants to get off go ahead and put their cameras on. We can take a quick picture to share on our DAC DLAC page. Mr. Baker, thank you so much. Anyone else is willing to just in the next, we're going to give you 4 more seconds. Oh, hi, Ms. Pedrosa. Thank you for turning your camera on. And Jeana,
Yes.
we're losing Jeana. Anyone else? We're going to count down 3, 2, 1. Gina's gone for good. Hold on 1 sec.
Oh, no, I'm there. I'm turning it on.
Alrighty, friends. Smile. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good night. Spread the word. We'll see you next month.
B and Jeana, I think you guys should have to wear a mask next time, and I think we should be able to.
Well, I wanted to make sure that for Robert's Rules of Order that we really think about some other ways for them to participate, because, you know, Robert Rules of Order are so like dry, but important, you know.
Well, perhaps
to
we
help
can have, you know, maybe for that one, they have to practice. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe just assign people to say,
I like that.
you know, using the sentence frames, like, you know, if you have sentence frames ready, we'll just say this is going to be interactive and everybody's, you know, going to have to say something.
Can we quit recording?
Oh, yeah.
So we still have participants in the meeting?
Yes, we
Oh.
do.
So we look forward to the next time, but we should, whoever is recording may stop.
Let me see if it's stop. I can see.
It's still going.
Oh, stop.